Radio show coming your way this morning at 10 a.m. Central from the historic KCOH TV radio station, The Boost, at the corner of Alameda and Wichita in Houston, Texas. Come join me because we're going to chat about leadership and showing up and getting aligned and getting clear, taking action and voting and voting and voting and all of that stuff. So join me for some great conversation and a few laughs. And when we're done, be sure and head over to your favorite podcast platform or to my website, laurelrutledge.com, and subscribe to my weekly podcast, The Rutledge Perspective Podcast. Episodes drop every Wednesday, and they are short and sweet, commute-worthy. And I promise you, you'll get something out of every one that will help you shift your perspective. Because when you shift your perspective, you shift your circumstances. See you soon.
It's Tuesday. Y'all getting ready? I'm getting ready to talk about strategy. See, Jerry and I are mind melding, man. You said it's ready. And I'm ready. Are y'all ready? Because we're ready over here. We stay ready. Ready to make moves, ready to get a strategy, ready to make things happen. Ready to take all that has already been planned for us and step into that with strength and purpose and confidence. We're going to talk about some voting. We are only 100 days out, y'all. Less than 100 days out now for midterms. So let's make some stuff happen. It is time. It is time. It is time. Welcome to the Rutledge Perspective Radio Show here on KCOH TV Radio, The Boost in Houston, Texas. I'm so happy to be here with you guys again. So happy to have another day to enjoy this time with you guys. We're going to be talking strategy today. What is your strategy? How do you have a strategy? Why do you have a strategy? Why do you need a strategy? All that good stuff. But first, we're going to talk about voting because we always start talking about voting. So we are less than 100 days away from the midterms, y'all, less than 100 days. So there are many states that you have to be registered at least 60 days ahead of time. 60 days ahead of time. Make sure that you are registered. Do not miss this deadline. Do not miss this deadline to get registered. And for those of you who are registered or believe you are registered, go check the registration and make sure that your registration is valid and up to date. You can go to vote.gov, G-O-V, and you can get instructions there on how to check your voter registration. You can go to Ballotpedia and figure out what's on your ballot when your elections are. Hey, Mr. Pete, when your elections are, all those kind of things that are happening, make sure that you can go check that. That's a place to go, ballotpedia.com, to check your elections. The other thing about vote.gov, not only will it tell you about registration, but it can tell you about your polls and all of that kind of stuff. And then if you go to When We All Vote, I believe that's .org, whenweallvote.org, they have your election protection hotlines. They have your election rights list for you, all of that kind of stuff. There is no reason for you not to know when and how and where to get registered, when and how and where to vote, to know what the issues are. You know, you can get a sample ballot at your county boards of election. You can get a sample ballot at Ballotpedia. You can get sample ballots so you know what is going to be on the ballot before you walk into the polling place and get to the ballot box. So you can educate and prepare yourself before you go exercise your right. So please do that. There's so many opportunities to do that. If there are bond elections or other ballot measures like constitutional measures, city ordinance measures that are on your ballot, make sure you understand what's going to be on there and go read them and make sure you know what your yes vote means and what your no vote means, because they often write these things where yes means no and no means yes. They do it on purpose, which is just beyond anything to me. Just write things clear. So soapbox moment. That's the thing that irritates me more than anything. We all get a chance to exercise our right to vote. If you are so convinced that your position is right, just say what it is clearly and then let people decide, as opposed to writing things in a way that nobody that doesn't have a PhD is going to be able to understand, right? People do that on purpose. They do it on purpose to confuse and to smoke and mirrors. Stop it. Just stop it. If you want someone to vote for something, tell them what they're voting for and make it clear in the way the ordinance is written or the ballot measure is written. Make it clear, right? Just don't do that shady, underhanded crap. Stop it. Stop it. That is just unnecessary. We should be able to understand very clearly what we are voting on. We have already gone down this slippery slope of dumbing down everything here in the US, because heaven forbid people actually have to critically think or understand words that have more than 6 letters in them. We got to stop that, right? We can't assume that people are stupid. People are fundamentally not stupid, but we have to make sure that people have information that is clear, that is clearly written, and that is indicative of what the situation is. And if you're reading something and it doesn't make sense to you, this is not the time for you to be embarrassed or concerned. Go ask somebody you trust. Go to vote.gov and say, I don't understand this. How do I get more explanation on what this thing is? Go read, go study, go educate yourself on what the issues are and what they mean for you, so that when you exercise your right to vote, it really is reflective of what you want to have happen, right? And then we let the chips fall where they may. But this shady, underhanded craziness just makes me ill. I just can't stand it. Not going to keep me from voting and not going to keep me from talking about it, but we just need to stop. We are all grown folks here. Well, for the most part, grown folks here, and we need to start acting like it. Okay. Soapbox rant over. So make sure you are going to vote.gov so that you can get registered in time. Okay. On the 4th, Tennessee, you have a statewide primary. On the 6th, Missouri and the U.S. Virgin Islands, you have primaries as well. And then on the 9th, Connecticut, Montana, Vermont, and Wisconsin, you guys are having statewide primaries. And then Mississippi and Minnesota, you also have some special congressional elections. So those are the things coming up here in the next few days, the next week or so, in the U.S. Globally, on the 9th, Kenya has a general election, and on the 24th, Angola has a general election. So again, what happens to one of us happens to all of us. So we got to be paying attention not only what's happening at home, but what is happening around the globe. The world is just small. It is smaller now than it has ever been. That's one of the beautiful and the challenging things about technology. We are closer connected than we have ever been. And so, and the supply chain, as we have seen, is global, right? The food chain is global. We are all globally connected. So what happens to one of us happens to all of us. We need to be paying attention to what's going on around the world and not be so nationalistic that we think that nothing outside of our borders makes any sense to us or is going to impact us. That's just not true. So we need to be willing to listen and engage and pay attention. Okay. The other thing is, remember, 988 is now functioning. If you are in crisis and need some significant help immediately, the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline now has a 3-digit number, 988. You don't have to try to remember the 800 number. I think it's 800-273-TALK. You don't have to remember that anymore. Dial 988 and you will be immediately connected to that National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. The 800 number is still functioning and they're going to keep it functioning, but this at least connects you to someone immediately. If you see something, say something. If you know somebody who's in crisis, say something, try to intervene. There are so many people suffering that that a simple ask for help or someone just noticing could make a world of difference. So 988 is now up and functioning around the nation. 988 for National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. Coming up in August, all things Laurel Rutledge. Got a lot of stuff happening. Got some great guests coming on Fireside. Got some great guests coming here on the radio show. Some great interviews that are going to be happening this month, published both this month and into September. So lots of really great people, and sent out a few more email introductions here yesterday and then again today, and we'll be doing so continuously. So maybe some surprise guests coming. Next week, we have Cheryl Cruzeau, who is the first Black woman commissioner at the Port of Houston. So she's going to be here in studio with me, and we're going to talk about her journey and her vision and how she moved into action to get where she is today. So join me for that. That's going to be a great conversation. That'll be next week, next Tuesday. Now, the week of the 26th or the week of the 23rd, the radio show will actually happen on Friday. I'm going to be hanging out with my mom. So I won't be here on Tuesday, the 23rd. I will be here on Friday, the 26th. And as usual, I'll post all of that so you guys know when and where to find me. And I did pin, by the way, I did pin the election protection numbers and the 988. I pinned that to the top of my Facebook page. So those posts are pinned. So you should be able, when you go to my Facebook page, the Rutledge Perspective on Facebook, you should be able to see those pinned. I'll pin them in IG as well so that they're there at the top. Also, a new 5-day challenge is coming in August. I believe it's the last week of August. So that's the 5-day activated alignment challenge. And then it'll be followed by the fourth quarter Clarify Your Vision Masterclass. Also going to be announcing some things coming in September. So I'm really excited about this community and some things that are going to be happening in September, an opportunity to engage with you guys again on a regular basis. So look for that, for the community membership that's going to be coming, which should be really exciting. Okay. That being said, let's talk a little bit about strategy and why we have one and why we need one. And I gave Jerry a heads up that I was going to be asking her some questions too. She told me don't ask her any questions, but I'm going to ask her anyway. So when we talk about, alignment, vision, and action, getting really clear on who you are, where you are, what you want, and what it's going to take to get there, particularly in that area of clarifying your vision so that you can move into action. The idea is, in order for that vision to materialize, you have to take action, number one, but you should have a plan of action. Proper prior planning prevents poor performance. And that's where strategy comes in. What is going to be your strategy to achieve that goal that you have set out for yourself? And what happens, and we've talked about this before, what happens sometimes is we get caught up in strategy has to be some big old thing, especially if you've been in a corporate setting. Strategy take like months, half a year. You start planning the next year's strategy in June. So you spend 6 months doing strategy work. Strategy can be just as simple as picking out a piece of paper, getting some pens and pencils and saying, what is it I'm trying to achieve and what are in general the things I need to do to get there? But it starts with kind of this vision of what it is you want, right? Getting really clear on what you want and then setting out this strategy. The other piece about strategy that I think people often forget or don't allow room for is that you need to be able to bake in some flexibility and adaptability into your strategy. You need to bake in those checkpoints where you can go say, is there additional information? Is there something that's changed? Is there anything new that has come across that I need to go back and revisit? Or has my vision shifted? Has something occurred in my life or in the world that has actually shifted my vision of what it is I want? And therefore, I need to adjust my strategy. Unfortunately, we get caught up sometimes in and locked into and tied to the strategy we put together. Like our feelings get all tied up in our strategy. Our ego gets tied up in our strategy. And heaven forbid we make a shift. Heaven forbid we say, oh, you know what? We're gonna do this a little bit way. We're gonna take a little bit of a detour. Or, that's not what I want anymore. This is now what I want, and this is why, right? We get caught up in our being seen as a failure or being seen as not capable or all the other little things. Hopefully the live is still working. I got a little flash there. All the other little things that get into our psyche and say, yeah, something's wrong with you. You just don't know how to execute. All that stuff is not true. It's not true. But it allows us to take ourselves out of the game unnecessarily. So if you are thinking about a career transition or a business transition, maybe you're looking at a shift in your business, right? As Janice Sutherland says, a swerve in your business. If you're looking at some kind of change or shift, it's important to have a strategy around that. How does it fit into what you're doing now or not? Is there something you need to change now or not? Is there communication or anything that needs to shift or not? But you need to take time. And the big thing about strategy is taking the time to be still and think. So I don't know where these hiccups came from, y'all. So the challenge with strategy, one of the challenges, because there can be many, but one of the key challenges with strategy, especially if you're talking about a strategy for your own life, your own career, or your own business, is making the time to sit and think. Making the time to sit and evaluate. What am I trying to do? Why am I trying to do it? What are the things I need? What are the decisions that I need to make? What could I possibly be missing? Who do I need to maybe bring into this shift? Where do I need to bounce this idea off of? We often don't make the time to really think through strategic moves and strategic changes. We just kind of do it. And there are a lot of people who shift that way pretty easily. They're just like, oh, this is what I want to do, right? That shiny object kind of thing. Oh, now I'm going to do this. Oh, now I'm going to do this. And that's not all bad. But if you're trying to bring people with you, that kind of ping pong is very difficult for people to follow. And so as you're making a shift or thinking about a shift, you want to think about why you're making it, why you're making a shift in your strategy, and give yourself the opportunity to take time to understand and develop a strategy that you can follow. It's about having a really strong foundation. It's so much easier to pivot and shift and move when you have at least some sort of structure upon which to do that. If there is no structure at all, then whatever you do is right, because there's no plan. There's no plan. But if there is at least a direction, a goal, a purpose, then as you begin to make changes or shifts, you can at least be able to butt those up against, well, this is where I say I'm going. This is my ultimate destination. Does this really make sense to keep doing this? Or do I need to be doing something different? And I also want you to consider how much grace you need to give yourself in the shift, right? How much do you need to allow yourself, not only the time, because if you give yourself grace, then you're liable to give yourself time, but how much grace do you need to give yourself if the information you acquire after you've decided on your destination tells you to either change direction, right? At the far end, we're going to completely change direction because this just wasn't it. Or we're not going to change direction, but we might need to either slow down or take a different path or something like that, right? Strategy is not set in stone. Strategy is a pathway to a desired goal and or outcome. That's what strategy is. So here's what I wanted to ask Jerry as we talk about strategy. You know, you guys hear Jerry and I talk a lot about, you know, how things well, they didn't just happen. There was a plan, a divine plan, but how this divine plan happened. And we wound up working together in the studio and all of these. But what you don't hear a lot of us talking in the background is all of the things that we both talk about, not only in our businesses, but how the vision starts coming together for bigger plans. And so, Jerry, as you think about not only all the work you have already done at KCOH and where it's going, but if you think about the vision you have, how do you take that vision and actually think about a strategy, right? A plan of how you're going to make things happen? Because you don't just wake up and say, oh, this is what I'm going to do today, and not know that there's a plan at the end. So how do you think about strategy to help take this station where your vision sees it can be?
Well, as you said, when you have others that you have to consider all the pieces in order to get it to the next level. And it's ironic that you brought this up, because I was actually talking about somewhat of this on today's show, that I personally, because of my belief in God, I seek God for everything. I seek Him for the wisdom to do. And then once He gives me the word to make something happen, I go for it. Sometimes it means call somebody that you need to talk to and say, hey, listen, we're in this together. This is what my vision has always remained the same. What is your vision for this to come to pass? And if they say, hey, I'm still on board, I go forward from there. So if they were to say that I'm not on board, then I would have to find another method in which to do it. So when I'm looking for strategy, sometimes he'll tell me you're going to have to, like you said, incorporate other factors in. And so a lot of things I do, you said this not too long ago about doing it in silence. It is in silence. It's working behind the scenes because for so many years, because I'm a public person, my private business is my private business. But I used to get on here and say, we're going to have this and we're going to have that. And it took too long. And so I'm noticing the more that I've been hushed, the more I've been seeing, oh, it's all coming together. And I was just talking about that on today when I first came here. I said, always know a visionary. You can see a pile of trash, and there's a lot of people around a pile of trash, and they start walking away. But pay attention to that one that stays there because they see something under the rubble. And I said, that's how I felt with this radio station, that everybody walked away and saw a pile of trash, but I saw stuff under the rubble. And so now at the appointed time, He's bringing it all to pass, but a lot of things have to work on us. He has to get us ready for it. We have to be prepared for it. We got to know that all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. So that's how I do it. I wait on His timing. And when He says, okay, this is the way in which you move, that's the beginning. That's how I begin to move and see stuff come to pass quicker.
Well, and one of the things you said, I think, is really important. It's one of the reasons I reached out to a couple of people that I'm still believing are going to be on my shows is, what is that saying? One person's trash, another person's treasure, right? And that's why I keep saying and taking my own advice, because that's the other thing. I've been talking to a lot of people this week, and I'm like, Laurel, you tell people this all the time. Can you listen to yourself every once in a while? Is in order to be strategic, you have to get still and quiet. You can't be strategic in a room of 4,000 people. You cannot. You can maybe have a vision in that room. You can maybe get lots of ideas in that room and thoughts and potential. And, oh, that's a good idea. Oh, I didn't think about that. Oh, I didn't. You can get all of that in that room of 4,000, but you can't develop a clean, clear strategy in public. That happens behind closed doors. That happens when everybody in the room, even if the only person in the room is you, is in lockstep with what the ultimate goal is and is willing to assimilate all information, good, bad, indifferent, I like it, I don't like it, all the stuff into a plan of action. Because to go without a plan is just a wish. But you can't do strategy. Well, let me rephrase that, because I hate to say can or can't. It is less effective to try to do good, consistent, clean, deep, clear strategy work in public, because that doesn't allow you the time for your own thoughts and your own vision to be clear and to lead, especially if you're easily influenced. Especially if you're easily influenced. I had to have that conversation with myself the other day. And even with my therapist, I said, sometimes I think I am more easily influenced than I thought. Now, I've got a strong brain, a strong spirit, a strong opinion. And I know me very, very well. I also am so self-aware that I'm always looking for those places where you can get better, right? Those places where there's a fault line where, oh, Laurel, you probably need to work on that, right? But what that allows for, if you're not careful, if you're one of those people who's very self-aware and you're trying to make big moves, by allowing or seeking lots of information, which is a good thing in and of itself, you have to be cognizant of the fact that sometimes that information can allow you to start using it as a way to undermine your own genius. Give you an example. They have all these assessments places, right? And if you're someone like me and someone like Jerry, right, you have a lot of things that interest you. They call it multi-passionate. There's a lot of things that you're excited about, a lot of things you want to do. There's gardening, there's golf, there's travel, there's water, there's all this stuff, right? All these languages, plus you got a business to run, you got always something, right? Shiny ball. There's always something. But here's the deal. I took this assessment. I think it's a Strength Finders assessment. And one of the things that came out is, you have all these ideas, but the challenge is really execution, because you get so excited and you put everything out there, but how do you stick with it to actually bring it to fruition? And there's some things about that, like there's, wanting to get my languages going again. There's all kinds of things I have on the list. But what's interesting about that, I was talking to my therapist the other day. I said, I think I might have absorbed that more than I needed to. And what I mean by that is it's a piece of information. It's one data point. It is probably fairly accurate because I am multi-passionate. There's a lot of things I'm interested in. There are a lot of ideas that I have. But if you sit in that, you have a hard time finishing things. You have a hard time bringing things to fruition, which in some cases is very true. But if you sit in that and own that and allow that to become who you are as opposed to a potential tendency you have, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So if you don't have time or make time, let me not say have time. If you don't make time to really sit with what your strategy is and focus, what is it that you're trying to achieve? What are all of the things that are needed to achieve that? And what are some of the potential pitfalls, not only externally, but internally in making that happen? You can allow all that external information to take you off your game. You have to make time to think strategically by yourself. Because sometimes those external influences actually take you off your game, right? I've talked before about how when I first started this business, when I first came out of corporate, I knew what I wanted. If I go back and look 5 years, year number 5, y'all, those 4 questions were in my very first video. I did that in the first 3 months I was in business. Who you are, where you are, what you want, what it's going to take to get there. My very first video. I knew exactly what I needed to do. But what I had not done was done a real clear alone time strategy of how that was going to show up and what I wanted that to look like, because the how takes care of itself, right? What I wanted that to look like, which allowed room for other influences to tell me what they thought I should be doing. And for me to internalize that almost as my own, oh, well, that makes sense. I am really good at that. So yeah, maybe they're right. Maybe I need to do that. Even though my gut's like, you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. Why are you doing that? Right? But because I had not taken the time to really do my own solitary strategizing, because it was new, right? I'm used to brick and mortar. I'm used to corporate. I'm doing my own thing. It's digital. All that, everything is new. There was, I think, a heavier reliance than normal on external experts. You got to vet your experts too. There are absolutely people who have genius in areas you do not. You want to fill the gaps. That's what I tell about people who hire. You want to hire for the things that you don't have, for the skills that you don't have. Great leaders know that. Great leaders know where their gaps are and how to hire to fill those gaps and don't have their ego involved in doing that. But there's a very fine line between hiring for your gaps and allowing someone else's expertise to take over your own. To make you think that your expertise is no longer valuable or no longer valid for the things you are trying to do for you. It's a very, very fine line. And so if you can take that time to really get still and think of your own strategy and align it to your own vision, there is less opportunity for those external influences to truly significantly shift your vision. And it gives you an opportunity to be so clear on your vision that if you decide to shift it, it is intentional, because the information that you've gathered from external sources really makes sense and is giving you an aha to say, you know what, that's right. I did not consider that. I did not think about that. But given the ultimate goal I have, that's a shift I need to make. It's intentional. It's intentional. Jerry, how do you force yourself, right, to spend that time thinking strategically? Because we're all busy, right? We're all busy.
But it comes natural to me. And I was talking about this morning, that the pandemic for me was a blessing because it pulled me away from so many things. I was gone every weekend, book doing this, book doing that. And when the pandemic hit, it was a blessing that I was able to sit down and strategize, able to get my mind clear. My mind wasn't clear, and I recognized that my mind wasn't clear.
Yeah.
So a lot of times it comes easy when you've been in chaos.
Yes.
And all of a sudden you get this reset button and you're like, and the light comes on, and then you get more excited to keep passion. And I said a lot of things that God intentionally gives us, it takes work to still do it. It still takes passion and commitment. Even to come here, I live a long way from here. So when I drive here, I have to say, hey, you were born for this. This is what you're called to do.
Right.
And I got to put my game face on and do it. And then I get excited about doing it. But even passion takes persistence.
Yes.
And I often tell people who want to be in radio that a lot of times you got to know what your why is. Because if your why is, I just want to be famous, I want to be a household name, that's not going to keep you going. Because you may not get the calls. You may not get that. It may take a minute. It's going to take you a minute to build your audience. So a lot of times you're not on the same wavelength, and somebody else that's not on your wavelength or what you asked God for is going to tell you you're doing it wrong. So if you know your why, it's going to keep you from that. We got a new listener on Ina's Voice. She said, you're definitely on point. You have my full undivided attention. I am creating a nonprofit organization for humanity, and it's so phenomenal to hear you speak this morning. I'm trying to educate aware humanity on so many different platforms as far as domestic violence, a wellness center for pharmaceutical-free trauma center that will be able to find the root of the issue of the trauma that inflicts the behavior that is dysfunctional in one family. Also trying to do a platform for humanity in law and aspect of housing, law, family, law, incarceration, law, and other aspects of humanity, and financial planning. I'm so grateful for this platform. I'm also trying to do a talk show, platform right in the Bay Area. Okay, she's from in the Bay Area. I'm so grateful for you. Thank you for this platform.
Yes, thank you so much. So here's the thing I would say to you, because it is, I think you got shiny ball syndrome too, just like me. There's so many things you want to do. One, imperfect action is better than perfect inaction. So keep moving. But two, what is the why for all those things? Is there a thread that connects them all that enables you to start somewhere and to get information in that tells you which one should be first, which one should be next, which one might you leave off the table, or which one actually is a partnership and not you doing it yourself? Right? One of the things that Jerry just said, and thank you so much for listening. New listeners, I love y'all. Old listeners, I love y'all too. I love all listeners, right? I am so grateful that you chose to spend your time with me. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart, because we all have choices. So sidebar, thank you for being here today. One of the things Jerry just said is like people who want to be on radio because they want to be famous. I am reading, and I highly recommend it. I'm reading Viola Davis's book. Now, if you're looking for a rah, this is great, blah, blah, blah. That's not the book. That's not this book. That's not this book. It is absolutely a memoir. She is raw and real, and it is her story. And there are lots of positive things in it. And it's definitely a hero's journey, right? There's an overcoming in it. But she talks very clearly and very frankly about the business of acting. And one of the things she talks about that aligns with what Jerry just said and aligns with this whole idea of strategy, right? Understanding where you're trying to go and that why is, she said, a lot of people get into acting because they want to be famous. I got into acting because I love acting. I love acting. I love the art and the artistry. And she said, the challenge is you see all these people who get into acting because they want to be famous and they don't get famous as quick as they want to get famous. Or you all of a sudden see the influencers and all you're seeing is their fame. You're not seeing when they didn't get the job and when they were just a journeyman actor. You didn't see any of that, right? And movie is very different than theater. But there's a training that happens in theater. There's an art that happens in theater versus television or radio or a TV or movie. Not that those genres are less valuable, but there is less camaraderie. There's less community. There's less, I won't say there's less art because I don't think that's fair because art is subjective, but there's less kind of, at least as I interpret it from her, there is less real training and gut and stuff in that TV and movies versus, theater, right? It's just different. And so one of the things she talks about and that Jerry just mentioned is it is so important to understand why you are exercising the effort you are exercising to do the thing you are trying to do. That why is critical, because that why is going to keep you going when you're not getting any clients, when nobody's buying your thing, when nobody's listening to the podcast, right? When you first start. Podcasters, so many people, as I'm in this Black Podcasters Association, we talk about this all the time, the podcast fade. So many people get tired very early. They come out of the gate excited and going, and they're moving and shaking, and they don't get 10,000 listens on their first podcast episode. And they are 3 in and they're done, right? Or 10 in and they're done because they didn't get the instant gratification, right? But if you understand why you're doing what you're doing, like I do what I do because I really want to serve. I don't want anyone in corporate to feel the way I felt. I don't want any Black woman to think she's crazy. I don't want any of that stuff to happen on my watch. That's why I do what I do. And so that means I continue to do the podcast. I continue to show up for the radio show.
Excuse us.
Yes.
He's going to have to measure the window on the show, but he's going to be real quiet.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So you'll see our friend pass by the window. Just ignore that. Keep going. This is what live radio is. So, it's that real understanding of why are you doing what you're doing? When you look at your vision and you set your vision, the vision is not just the what, the vision is the why. Because planning that strategy to achieve the vision, knowing why you're doing something, enables those shifts to happen, those swerves to happen, right? Those detours instead of derailers, because you're always focused on the end goal and you know why you are doing it. I do what I do to serve. I don't want anyone to feel like I felt. I don't want anyone to think they're crazy. I don't want anyone who is eligible to vote to miss their opportunity to vote. I want people to be clear on what the truth is and what facts are, right? I want to have great conversations. I want to learn. I am a nerd. I love learning new stuff. I love it, right? And I want to be able to share that lifelong learning, that ability to help and to serve, and that we all have power. Words have power. We have power. We all have genius. We are all valuable. As my friend Holly says, who's going to be on Fireside, by the way, in October. My friend Holly says, you do not have to be perfect to be priceless. You're priceless because you exist. And so my why is very clear for me. And I have to stand in that. I've been standing in that why these last few weeks hard, because there's some shifts happening. And those shifts are hard. Those shifts make you think, why am I doing this? I need to go get a job, right? I need to just go where somebody else is just going to write me a check. That's what I need to do. Every 2 weeks, that's what I need to do, right? But because I'm really clear on my why, I can pause. I can sit in that moment. I can take my little, my pity party, I can't believe this, I don't understand. I can take all of that. Remember my why, get myself together, and keep it moving.
Laura, when you said that, every time I think like that, because I believe all entrepreneurs think like that.
Yes.
What am I doing? I need to get some guaranteed money.
Right.
And then it came to me, you are the guaranteed money. Now what you're going to have to do is sharpen your skills in some areas.
Yes.
And you become the product. And
yes.
then when you really know your why, I believe that the universe comes in agreement with you as to this why, and it backs you up. Then you'll start seeing more opportunities come. Right. But it's not easy. It's a struggle sometimes.
It's a struggle.
Stuff make you think, okay, maybe I need to go get a job.
Yes.
But you have a job. You are a job.
Yes.
And so you just have to, you got to stand in that why, because things are going to come to, it's supposed to.
Right.
Because the purpose is to knock you off of what your purpose to do. And just like this, when you're doing this and you get new listeners and they come in, that's a part of saying I'm in line.
Absolutely.
That's what you call a God week.
Yes.
That's my why.
Yes. And what's interesting is for those of you who are in corporate, right? And are just trying to do something different, trying to move. Just do what you need to do, honey. Trying to move, trying to decide where you're going, what you're doing. One, sit in your strategy, take your time, go find some quiet space, maybe find your confidant, your ride or die, right? My womb to the tomb. Go find that person and say, hey, here's what I'm thinking, right? Do butt it up against somebody you really trust and who knows you well, so that if they're saying, oh, you need to sit still a minute, but this is why, right? Just take that opportunity to get some outside information, but really spend time with you What doesn't feel right? If the first thing you think is something's not right, that's a good first step. But why doesn't it feel right? Is it me or is it them? What is it about this situation that no longer aligns with what I'm trying to do, no longer aligns with my purpose? And give yourself the gift of time and solitude and grace and compassion to really think through what's going on, right? And what you need to change. If you are an entrepreneur, especially if you are a service-oriented business, so the only thing you've got is what's in your head, what you can deliver, right? You're a consultant, you're a coach, you're an advisor, you're all any of those kind of things that does not have a tangible product. That's when it gets really hard, right? Because when people say no, they're saying no to you, essentially. If you absorb that, they're saying no to your genius. They're saying they don't need you. Well, number one, there are billions of people in this world. And I know I am not right for everybody. And I'm okay with that. Because the people who need me, if I do what I am supposed to do in my genius, if I continue to serve, if I continue to show up, the people who need me will find me. They will find me. I ended up working with an entrepreneur who happened to be the mother of someone that I was working with through another business, right? And she's like, I need you to talk to my mom. I had the best time working with this woman. And she is fantastic. And she was at a position in time. So again, knowing my purpose, knowing my why, which is who you are, where you are, what you want, and what it's going to take to get there. Helping people get really clear, aligned, a clear vision, and moving into empowered action. On the surface, you think, no, this is not a client I would take. This woman has an incredibly successful business. She's a solopreneur, but incredibly successful. And she was reaching a point in time where she was just ready to be done, right? How am I going to exit this business? How do I do that? When do I do that? I got somebody that's working with me. How do I, this is what she was struggling with. And so we were able to work through that with her. Because at the end of the day, I knew my purpose was to serve. I knew that the issue was really about alignment, clarifying the vision, and then moving into action and understanding that there are lots of options. We sometimes get locked into something. And so it takes someone outside to tell us there are more options, right? And it was the most rewarding. I mean, I understand from her that it was great for her. She understood it too. But I got to tell you, selfishly, I had so much fun. And she was so amazing to work with. And I get tears in my eyes thinking about how happy she is now, how calm she is about her plan and how she's moving in action. That's what I mean by strategy and knowing your why. Not all money is good money. Not all clients are the right clients. It's okay to say no, because when you let that stuff go, you make room for the stuff that is right. And again, there are billions of people. There are lots of people to serve. And so find the folks that need you and whom you can serve, right? That's what you want to do. And that's why strategy is important. So you can sit in that. Now, don't get me wrong. If you're a product person, so let me finish that thought. So if you're in corporate, you got to give yourself that grace and that compassion. If you're a solopreneur, you really got to take that time for strategy and quietness. And especially a solopreneur, you're in your head by yourself a lot. Find a trusted sounding board. That's why coaches need coaches. That's why entrepreneurs need business coaches. Find a sounding board that you can trust. And I don't mean all the things that are like, let's teach you how to do this course. Let's teach you how to do. Those things are important. There's some great people that you can do those things with and all of that. But you need to find someone you can talk to about your strategy. Get clear on your why, what it is you want to do, so that when you are deciding where you're going to spend your limited resources, time, energy, money, they are absolutely aligned with where you're trying to go, right? Because you're either going to have to spend time or spend money, one of the two. Be really strategic about which one you spend where. And then if you have a product business, right? If you have something that you are actually offering to people, the same thing holds true. If somebody's not buying your thing, don't just stop. Why is that the thing you want to sell? What is the solution you are providing? If you're in corporate, what is the value you're adding? If you're a solopreneur, what is the impact you're making? If you've got a product, a tangible product, what solution are you providing? Solopreneur service business, what solution are you providing? It's about providing solutions. Leadership is about providing solutions. It's also about behavior, not about position. So that idea of working on strategy and getting really clear around your strategy enables you to get heavy, sit heavy in your why, to allow flexibility in the how. You know what? I don't need to be on every platform. The platforms where I can make the most impact are this, this, and this. I don't need to be on everyone because I'm telling you, unless you have a limited monetary resources or you just love the social media thing, why would you be on every single platform? What is the point? Now, if your point is to be a social media maven or to start a social media management business, you probably need to be on every platform. But that's your why. Your why is I want to become an expert in social media management, which means I need to be knowledgeable and my team needs to be knowledgeable about all the platforms that are out there now, from Snapchat to TikTok, right? I wouldn't even know how to open Snapchat, right? So that's a reason, that's a why. So then your strategy around doing that becomes very different. But if you're in an organization, maybe it's LinkedIn that you really are going to spend a lot of time in because you want to build your personal brand as a thought leader. If your target audience is corporate people, maybe it's LinkedIn, maybe it's Instagram, maybe it's Pinterest, because Pinterest is really a search engine, not just a DIY space anymore. Maybe it's Facebook, although that's about to be minimal for me, I think. Right? But why are you doing it? If you're selling a product, where do you want to do it? You want to be on Shopify? Do you want to be on Etsy? Do you want to be on Pinterest? Where do you want to be for your product? Where are your customers most likely to find you because they need the solution you're providing? That's strategy. And you cannot do that as effectively if you don't make time to think it through. Make time for silence and solitude, right? To get still so you can really hear. Whatever works for you. Again, for me, it's about pieces of paper and pens, right? Markers, colored pencils, those kind of things. That connection of mind and hand is what works for me. It's what I need to get clear. When my mind is messy and muddled, because I am multi-passionate, I have to write things down, because even when I do that and write things down and have the visual picture, it also shows me, Laurel, that's too much stuff. You're trying to do too much. What is the one thing, just one thing, right? What is the one thing that's important to do now? I just sent a note to Jenny. You guys have met Jenny, who've been following me. And she is the maven for our empowerment village. I mean, she is making sure that happens because I get caught up in so much other stuff. And she is making sure that we are staying connected to folks. She's incredible. But I just sent Jenny a message this morning and said, okay, I need to have a strategy discussion with you. Here's what I'm thinking, because she is a partner for me, right? Not only a partner in Empowerment Village, where we're co-founders, but also she is my business partner in my Laurel Rutledge business, my Rutledge Perspective, my podcast. She's my producer on my Fireside show. She is a person who I trust and who understands my vision and is willing to say, Laurel, just push that aside and do something else. Who's willing to say, you're paying a lot of people. Somebody needs to be paying you, right? Let's pause. Don't necessarily do that yet, right? Don't pay to speak. Don't pay to, which we all know, I don't, So find that person that you can get all the stuff out of your head. Find your sounding board, and then go back sometimes and spend that quiet time to say, okay, now I see the picture. Where am I really going to focus? Because time is not renewable. Every minute that passes is gone forever. It's just gone, right? You can't get it back. You can't get it back. That doesn't mean you need to mourn the passing of that time. It just means you want to be much more cognizant of the fact that that is true and much more strategic around the use of your time. Resources, right? Time, energy, money. Time is not renewable. Energy is. You can rest, right? You can rejuvenate, you can renew your energy, and you can find more money. You can. You may not be able to find as much as you want to find when you want to find it, but you can find more money. I can't believe somebody won that $1 billion out of Illinois.
I know.
Oh, and it wasn't me.
I didn't play, but I sent people out there to play.
It wasn't my time. It wasn't my time. I keep telling myself it wasn't my time.
Yeah.
It wasn't my time. I wouldn't know. Actually, I knew exactly what I was going to do with it. But anyway, I digress. So it's really important in that strategic discussion that you allow for external information. You allow for external influence, but you don't allow yourself to be influenced necessarily by that. You are intentional. You are discerning in your strategic conversations. Yes, I hear all this stuff. I see all these shiny objects. I see the new thing that people are doing, and I need to, everybody says you need to be on TikTok. Everybody says you need to be on Twitter. Everybody says you need to be on whatever the new thing is. Everybody says you need to, really? Do you? Do you? Is it a need or is it a strategic decision depending on what your ultimate outcome is? And even if you decide to do that, how are you going to do it? And why? Are you doing it because you want to have 1 million followers? Okay, if that's your goal, is to have 1 million followers, then there's certain things that you do to get that, including potentially buying followers, right? If your goal is to have 1 million followers, there are things that you do. If your goal is to make an impact, that's different, because you can make an impact with 2 followers, because not everybody who's watching you is saying they're following you. Not everybody who's listening is downloading your podcast. Not everybody, right, who is watching you is commenting, but someone is always watching. Someone is always listening. You always have an opportunity to make an impact on someone's life all the time, whether you know it or not. So it's important for you to be really clear on your strategy and your why, so that you are clear on the impact that you're making. And we're going to do some speaking of impact, we're going to do some shout outs here in a minute.
And when you talk about the TikTok thing too, because even with you and I, we have 2 different types of businesses.
Right.
I see doing TikTok because I'm more entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how you can get thrown off by other people saying, because that's conducive for what they do.
Exactly.
And if it's not going to be conducive for what you do, then that could be a big mistake. Like, what is she doing on TikTok? Whatever.
Right.
So,
right.
You're right. You can't be influenced. It's good to listen. Right. But you need to know how to, tell all you can, meet the rest or whatever.
And even if you do all of the platforms, how do you show up on them?
Yeah.
Right. So like Pinterest has become a search engine, right? It's not just a DIY. It is truly a search engine. So there are people who are actually putting out content on Pinterest, like around their podcast or giving their 5 tips or whatever, those kind of things. That makes sense for me, right? Maybe I need to really explore Pinterest. Even on TikTok, yeah, there are a lot of folks, shaking and dancing and all that kind of mess, right? That's entertaining. But there are also people out there giving advice and giving information. Lots of chefs out there, lots of people doing recipes, lots of people doing hacks, right, on TikTok. So if TikTok ends up being a platform, the question is, how do you show up on these things? Because again, from a strategic perspective, the first question is, am I even going to be there? Is that even a place I need to be or want to be? Want first. Is that even where I want to be? And even if it's not where I want to be, should I be there based on what my ultimate goal is? And if the answer to that is yes, then how do I want to be there? Because just because everyone else is doing dances or everyone else is doing a certain kind of video or using a certain kind of music or doesn't mean you have to. Sometimes being different or contrary is what makes you stick out. You do not have to do everything that everybody else does, because guess what? You're not like everybody else. Just like I know I am not for everybody. There are people who are like, I am not listening to her because she talks about voting all the time. And she always calls things out, and she talks about the fact that there are facts and there's truth and all that. And that irritates people to no end. I'm okay with that. Because see, that just means you're not my people. And that's okay. I'm not mad at you. I don't hate you. I don't do any of that stuff. It just means we don't necessarily need to connect. There are billions of people. Billions of people. There are other folks who are like, nope, thank you for the reminder. Where do I go? Vote.org. Vote.gov. When we all vote. Ballotpedia. Right? I am here to share information so that if you are an eligible voter, you go exercise your right to vote. That we are pushing Congress to make sure we protect voting rights. That's the stuff that I call out. And if that's not your jam, I'm okay. I'm okay. And so are you. You do you, boo. Right? So it's important that when you think about your strategy, that your strategy is aligned, is connected to a clear vision that has specific action to get you there, with enough adaptability and flexibility that as you start moving, you can understand what might be a little derailer or what might just be a simple detour. And if it's a derailer, is it a derailer that is intentional because you have now changed your destination intentionally? Or that extra information that you got has said you need to change? It's all about intent. It's about taking the time to be quiet. It's about moving with intent. And sometimes we're going to get surprised. Things happen, right? Life happens. But if you are solid in your why, if you have some kind of plan, then you are at least shifting or moving or, heaven forbid, pivoting from somewhere. You're not just running willy-nilly. You got some anchor that can move you.
That's important, Laura, because you do crash when you run willy-nilly, and you will run out of energy.
Yes.
When you're all over the place, you're going to
Yes.
run out of energy, and it's going to take you much longer
Yes.
to get to that destination. So that is so true. And then I'm seeing Dr. Cynthia J. Hickman.
Dr.
And she and
Hickman.
I are working on something for her.
Mhm.
And, you know, she's got a formula plan. She's got it
Mhm.
well written. She's got what she wants to do, how she wants to do it, where she's going to get the capital to get it done.
Mhm.
And it's good to talk to people that are experienced in that level.
Yes.
A lot of times we talk to people who haven't even tried to do what you're
Right.
endeavoring to do. So
Right.
you got to make sure you know the advice that you're taking is
Yes.
incredible advice.
Sit
It's
at the
approved.
feet of people who are 12 steps ahead of you.
Yeah.
Put your ego aside. If it's something you really want, then you are also willing to learn and do the work to figure it out. We got shout outs?
Yes, we have.
Woohoo.
This is a place. It's a Mentis, I believe.
Okay.
It is in India Ocean, located off the eastern coast of Africa.
Oh,
Where I was
yay.
studying.
Yes.
In Panama,
Uh-huh.
Argentina, bid us to come.
Yes.
Portugal, you want to know.
Yes.
Brazil is in the house. Puerto Rico is in the house. France, Germany, Finland. We've got Panama, Doncaster. We've got Santa Maria. We've got Rose Hill. We've got St. Louis. We've got Lisbon. We've got Helsinki.
Mhm.
We've got Austin today. You're coming.
Yay.
We have New York. We have St. Louis. We have Los Angeles, California. We have Atlanta, San Antonio, Chicago, Kansas City, Dallas, Fort Worth, and Houston, Missouri City, Acres Home.
I love it. And we have our new listener. Let us know
Yes.
where you're from. And let us know. Send us back a DM that says, hey, here's what I decided to do. Here's what I did, take a strategy session. Let us know what you decided to do after listening today.
Now I want to ask you something because she said what I see that you do. She's on several different platforms.
Mhm.
What was the advice that you gave her? Because it seems like they all tie into each other.
Yeah.
So what is the advice?
So the thing that I say about all these platforms is you could be on every single platform. You've got to decide where you want to spend your resources, time, energy, money. If you know specifically who you're trying to reach, where are they, and be on those platforms. And then even once you decide which platform you're going to be on, how are you going to be on that platform? This whole pressure of you got to post 12 times a day and you got to do what works for you, because consistency is the bigger issue. How are you showing up and when are you showing up? Can people count on you being there, right? Even if that's once a month, people always know on the 3rd of the month, I know I'm going to get something from Laurel or whatever it is. So pick your platforms wisely. Don't feel the pressure to be on every single one unless your strategy is to be on every platform, and then make sure you know why, because there's resources involved with that. And you can repurpose content, of course. But then pick the ones that really get at who you're trying to impact. And then just show up consistently, whatever that is for you. Once a week, once an hour, that's a lot. Whatever your consistent thing is, that's what you want to do. That's what you want to do. So I think this has been a good conversation, y'all.
It's a very good conversation.
I love spending Tuesdays with you guys.
So the gist of it is have a strategy.
Have a strategy, right? And even more so than have a strategy, give yourself time in quiet and solitude to think about what your strategy is, to get all the mess out on paper or digital planner or whatever works for you. However you need to get it out, whiteboards, Post-its, whatever works for you, get it out so that you can see it, right? Our senses work in conjunction. And so if we just talk about it, we don't always see the mess. But if you write it down or do Post-its or something, the visualization, especially as adults, the visualization can also send a message to you that enables you to get solid and focused, right? Or it may make you say, "Ooh, I need to sit down because I have no idea what to do because I got too much stuff going," right? Allow yourself that moment too, but don't sit in that freeze mode. Remember, fight, flight, or freeze or faint. Don't allow yourself to stay frozen. Take one step. Take one step. Do just one thing. Get it all written down. Let that happen, right? Just keep moving, keep doing what you're doing. But when you get ready to do a strategy, write your whole strategy down. If you get overwhelmed, put it aside and then keep doing what you're doing. Because here's the thing. You've been doing it this long. Keep doing what you're doing and then come back to your strategy again and say, okay, now I'm ready to really be more intentional about where I'm using my time, energy, and money, right? Don't beat yourself up about your strategic process. That's not the point. The point of a strategic process is for you to get really clear that what you are wanting is aligned with who you are and where you are, so that you can make a plan that gives you the highest probability of achievement of the thing you say you want, and enables there to be room for compassion and grace when things change, because they always do, because life happens. Life happens. Doesn't mean you give up on your dream, just may mean it looks a little bit different or might be a little bit delayed or might actually move up. So be ready. If you really get strategic and you're really sitting in your purpose, get ready for the amazing stuff and the abundance to show up. Because sometimes our issue is a fear of success, not a fear of failure. That's me. I know I'm not just talking to me, right? Sometimes the issue is a fear of success, not a fear of failure, because we've been brought up or trained to be humble. Don't be too egotistical. And success can say ego, right? It's all the head trash. The head trash is real. Give yourself some time, give yourself some grace, think strategically, move with intent. It's not going to be perfect. I can't guarantee you perfection. I can't guarantee you ultimate success. What I can guarantee you is some clarity if you will take the time to do that, so that you can intentionally move with the resources that you have, because time is not renewable. All right, y'all.
Let me say this.
Yes.
This came to me when you said that success is what? What did you say? Because sometimes we're scared of success.
Sometimes you can be scared of success.
This came to me that we're obligated to share our success because you're on this platform and many people are tuned in and watching all over the world.
Yeah.
Like when you post the different continents and countries that you're in, I believe that you're obligated to do that, because that's letting you know that my work, my labor is not in vain.
I agree.
And that you too can come out here. And a lot of times we shy away from it because what are they going to think? They're going to think that way anyway, whether you're doing something or whether you're not doing anything. Then I want to talk about, it was a real prime example that you have to be flexible in your mission and your why, because things happen, as you said, life can happen. I had the guy scheduled to come when your show was over, but he came here early, and I said, can you give me 15 minutes? I got a live show on. He says, I gotta do it. And I said, okay, hold on. And so if I thought you were just really irate, you know.
Right.
And you're like, honey, go on, do what you need to do, because on your mission and on your strategy, some stuff is not going to line up the way you thought it was.
Exactly.
Keep going, because it still has to get done.
Exactly. Things happen, right? Bumps in the road. Just pick yourself up and keep moving. Keep moving. Put a Band-Aid on that scrape and keep going.
Ina Voice said, she said, absolutely true statement. I am not on any platforms at the current time. I am trying to create platforms that are going to have wholesome, straight direction to solutions to problems of humanity on all platforms that I had mentioned either earlier. I am so grateful for this life. Thank you sincerely for feeding me some good seed this morning.
Great.
That's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Because again, I know you have a choice. So I appreciate your spending this time with me this morning. All of you who are listening, all of you around the world. New York City, I was just there looking at a pop-up in New York. So stay tuned. And all these other places. Portugal, I am coming. I don't know when, but I'm coming. Right? Argentina, all y'all. We're going to be we are serving globally. So we're going to start showing up globally. Hopefully the monkeypox gets calmed down, because I'm not trying to catch that either. So, between COVID and monkeypox, y'all, I'm just trying to make it. So, but you will see me, because, we only get this one life. So we can't be scared and just stay at home. So y'all look for me coming in the 2022 and into 2023. We're going to be taking a lot of stuff on the road. So love you guys. Mean it. Thank you. We'll tune in next week, Tuesday. Yes, we have Cheryl Cruzeau next week. So a really great person that's going to be in studio. Take care. We'll see you next time. Bye.